What up, folks? What's going on? Welcome to episode number
69, dudes!
of the Spun Today podcast. I'm your host, Tony Ortiz. Thank you very much for listening. In this episode, I speak about going to have homemade ice cream at a Queens, New York gem called Eddie's Sweet Shop, the Amazon original series Snaky Pete, the movies Manchester by the Sea and Fences, and I also speak about the Broadway play Cats and reading The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. If any of that sounds like it would be of interest to you in terms of my take and reflections on them, then stick around. You might enjoy the episode. And if not, feel free to check out the back catalog of all Spun Today podcast episodes, which are free and always will be, for your listening pleasure. All right, so first off, Eddie's Sweet Shop. This is a place in Forest Hills, Queens, New York. It's nearby where I live, probably like 15 minutes away or so, driving. And it is a soda shop, is what it's called. I guess that's what it used to be called back in the day. But it's pretty much a place to get ice cream, like an ice cream place. Ice cream shop. I don't know if shop is the right word. Anyway, it's been in the neighborhood in the exact same location for over 100 years. It was, I think I spoke about this probably in the past on the podcast, but whatever, I went there last night with my wife and sister-in-law and brother-in-law. Shout out to Julia Raul. And we went to get ice cream. And what I like about it is the fact that it's been there for 100 years. I think there's only been like 4 different owners throughout those 100 years. And it opened up in 1908 or 1907, if I'm not mistaken. I put a couple links in the episode notes, like a link to its Yelp page. You guys can see a few pictures of it, of how it looks inside, as well as an article by a local newspaper, the Queens Tribune, that did a piece or wrote a piece on the history of the place and stuff like that, if you guys want to check it out. But what's cool about it is that it's homemade ice cream that's really good, and you kind of sort of get that old school vibe going into the place, because they've kept it, I think, the same as it was back in the last time they like remodeled it or whatever, was in like 1920s or 1930s. So it's in that, like, the look is the same, that like the tiles, the like utensils and cups and shit that they use to put the ice cream in, and the milkshakes, malted milkshakes that they make and stuff like that, like all that, they've kept it in that like original look. So it's kind of sort of like when Marty McFly goes back in time and Back to the Future, and he goes to the 1955s like little diner or whatever where everybody was hanging out, and it was like a throwback type of thing. You kind of get like that type of feel, which is cool. The other thing that I like about it is that obviously it's like great tasting ice cream. It's like really good. You know, if it was like shitty ice cream, then everything else really wouldn't mean much. So it's really good ice cream. You know, ice cream is usually fucking good, right? let's not fuck around and kid ourselves. But what's cool also about it is that it's a sit down place. So you go and sit down like you would at a restaurant, and you order ice cream. And like they give you menus. They take your order and come back with your like ice cream or milkshakes or whatever. You know, it's not like for example, I differentiate it from like a Carvel or whatchamacallit, what's that? The one where they sing and dance and shit for you when you give them a tip. Creamery, Cold Stone Creamery. Like those type of places, you could sit down there and eat, but it's, you know, you go up to a counter, order what you want, you know, they scoop it up for you, you walk over to the cash register and pay for it, then you could, I guess, sit down and eat if in the fucking 2 tables that they have. But in a place like this, like you literally go and sit down. It's not a huge place. We had to wait online for a little bit, like to get a table, but they have like a counter. We waited probably like 10 minutes for tables to free up, because, you know, it's not like a full meal. People are just eating ice cream. And you sit down in like a booth or a table, they give you a menu, they bring you the ice cream, you eat it, you know, you ask for the bill, and, you know, it's kind of like restaurant style in that sense, and it's pretty dope. I definitely recommend it for anybody that's in the area or that comes to the area. Definitely check it out. Oh, and you know what else is cool? They have like old school candies. Like on one side you have like all the ice cream stuff, and on the other side they have like old school candies like sugar daddies and now and laters and like stuff like that, which is pretty cool too, if you want to take anything home, and it's pretty dope. So check it out. It's called Eddie's Sweet Shop, and I definitely recommend it. I'll see if I'll throw some pictures up on my Instagram actually of the place and like what we ordered and stuff like that, so you guys can see like what the portions look like. I just ordered like a regular 1 scoop sundae of maple walnut ice cream, which was really good, with vanilla syrup and homemade whipped cream, I think it was. And it's fucking delicious. I could go for some right now. All right. Next is Sneaky Pete, the Amazon original series. I finished watching it and it was really good. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to a second season. And the show was, well, first off, I like Giovanni Ribisi. Like I've told you guys, it's a little, I was a little thrown off when I found out he was a Scientologist. But whatever, to each his own. Whatever works for you, right? Even if it's some like crazy wonky shit like that. But then again, what religions aren't, you have to suspend disbelief to some extent for any religion that you ascribe to, I guess. And as long as you're not one of those like militant, preachy, culty selling ones, you know what I mean? Like in terms of like the followers of it, there's people that like to push stuff on you. I saw an interview with Giovanni Ribisi on, I want to say it was on Jim Norton's show, like Sirius satellite show, and he asked him about it, and he kind of had like a good, Ribisi had like a good response to it. That kind of like, I guess, put me at ease in terms of, oh no, he's a loon. He was kind of like that other people that are into or that follow different religions like Christianity or that are Muslims or whatever, that are also actors. Like that's not something that comes up, but because he's a Scientologist or like Mormons or whatever, but because he's a Scientologist, like it comes up, and he says that I'm paraphrasing here, he pretty much felt that it's his own like personal belief, and it's like separate from everything else that he does, and it shouldn't really be like the focal point of conversation when it comes to like his acting and like shit like that, which I guess makes sense, right? Like we don't speak about Denzel Washington and I don't even know what religion he is, but let's say he's a Christian or a Baptist or a Catholic or a Muslim or whatever. Like that's not something that comes up. Like we don't know what he is, but we do know what Giovanni Ribisi is. That he's a Scientologist, just because it's a little out there, I guess, and weird and different and newer. So I guess that's why it comes up. But we should use the same principles, I guess, should apply to one should apply to the other. So I guess if on some level he feels that he's put on the earth to free us all of Thetans and he's gonna get his own planet when he dies and like stuff like that, then so be it, as long as he's not hurting anybody in the process. And what I was thinking too, there's probably like different levels. Like you have fanatics in everything, right? You have fanatical like Christians and Muslims and that are jihadists and stuff like that, or like Mormons and Scientologists that are all up in that shit. But you probably have like the more laid back ones, like you do with every other religion too, like the ones that kind of sort of subscribe, and it's more so for like certain rituals and certain holidays. Like I'll do the whole, I'll get I had my baptism, do my first communion, and then I'll do a confession or two between here and when I get married, and then after that I'll confess before I die or something like that, and I'll go to church 5 times between now and then or something. You know what I mean? Like people that aren't like as go hardish, they probably have that too within Scientology, I would imagine. But whatever, it is what it is. Anyway, the show itself was pretty dope. It felt like it went a little bit stale, I would say. Like not too much was going on, but there was still like setting it up. Like between episodes like 3 and 5, 3 and maybe part of 6. But after that, every episode was like really dope to watch. The beginning of it was cool, just to episodes like 1 through 3, just for that like setup stuff, and see where all the pieces are and where everything lies in terms of like the storytelling of it. But I think they stretched it out a little too much towards the middle there. But it was like super engaging. Definitely like the last half of it, and it reminded me. It finished off kind of like a Ocean's 11 type of thing. Like Ocean's 11 was the first one, right? That first movie, which was really good, I thought. In terms of like those twists and turns and how did they pull this off, how did they pull that off, that was pretty cool. The acting was great. You had Giovanni Ribisi, obviously. You had Bryan Cranston. You had this dude whose name I forget, but he was also in Mr. Robot. You had towards the end, you had, you know who's in it? The guy that played like the dumb friend from Euro Trip, which is a funny ass movie. He's in it. He plays the attorney that is the ex-husband of Cousin Pete's cousin. And you have the dude that played Will's father in The Fresh Prince, Lou, like the deadbeat dad. That the guy that played him was also in it. He was like Maurice, I think his name was, and he was like a OG con man that taught Marius like a lot of what he knew. Was like a mentor to him, and I like that aspect of it. It's like the show takes like a deep dive into like the con artist world, and it's like, that shit exists, that world exists, that world of like fake Rolexes and conning people out of money and running scams and schemes, and they could be as short term as being a pickpocket to as long term as several months worth of calculated planning and manipulating several people simultaneously, and a lot of moving parts and stuff like that, which is an art form in and of itself, I guess, like shady, albeit like a shady one, but it is something that takes, I would imagine, like a certain level of intelligence and aptitude to be in and to pull off, and just dealing with the variable that you're around like a shitload of like grimy, fucked up people that don't follow rules and stuff like that is something that has to always be factored in and stuff like that. And it's like interesting to like take a glimpse into that world, or at least how they portrayed it in this series, which is really cool. Now, another aspect that I like about this show, and the fact that it's an Amazon original, is that Amazon, Netflix, like these non-traditional outlets to creating like Emmy Award winning shows, like Netflix with House of Cards and Orange is the New Black, and like very high caliber shows. And it's just continuing to push that, with big name actors like Bryan Cranston and Giovanni Ribisi. And Netflix, by the way, is releasing a movie with Will Smith, one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood. And it's a $90 million movie. Like the budget for the movie is $90 million. That's like Hollywood shit. And it's being done by Netflix. And it's so cool to see that being done. And it's like disrupting the space, but in a way that us as the users benefit from it. And that, I think that's dope. I think that's super cool. And at first, I like when that news came out of that Netflix movie that Will Smith is doing, and other things like Seinfeld signed a multi-million-dollar deal to do a like 2 stand-up specials, and they're gonna put his web series on there, Comedians in Cars, on Netflix. Dave Chappelle also has like a two or three stand-up comedy special deal and a movie or something like that with Netflix as well. And these like tens of millions of dollars deals getting done. And I'm like, how the fuck does Netflix, this like little rinky-dink company, just like in thoughts of like Hollywood, all of Hollywood versus Netflix type of thing, like in that type of space, how are they fucking with them like that? And it's like, when you break it down, Netflix has, I looked this up, they have like 46.5 million viewers, million subscribers, and I'm including myself as one of them. Let's round that down to just, let's say 46 million. And there's different packages. I got the cheap one. Let's say everybody gets the cheap one, which is $7.99 a month. So a month, Netflix is, 46 million times 7.99 a month. And this is gross, obviously, not fucking, before any expenses. It's not net revenue or anything like that, but just gross. They're pulling in over $365 million a month. Like, that's how they could afford like all these millions of dollars, and fuck with like Hollywood level budgets and bring in these big name actors. And again, we benefit from that, and it's like dope and, I don't know, like inspiring and promising in some weird way. It's like more like direct to consumer type of business models, which is pretty cool. Like Amazon, for example, has something called Amazon Studios, Amazon Story Writer, where you can submit scripts, like ideas for shows or movies or whatever. You can submit it through there directly to them. Whereas before you would have and those scripts and have the potential to become TV shows, Amazon originals or whatever, TV shows and or movies, like the ones that we're seeing being made, or at least the concepts bought and stuff like that. But you have like a direct connection to people that are actually making these things. Whereas like traditionally you would have to get an agent, somebody to want to be your agent, to then give them your scripts, and then hopefully they have some sort of connections throughout studios in Hollywood that make movies and TV shows and stuff like that. And maybe someone sees it and just buys a script off spec and just pays you for that, and that's it. And then it usually never sees the light of day. And if it does, then maybe it gets a pilot done, and then if it does, then most likely it'll never become a TV show. And then if it does, it might get picked up for half a season, and then if it does, that's probably as far as it'll go. And then maybe it'll be a full season, and then if it is, then maybe you'll get 2 seasons. You know what I mean? Like, it's like a very shot in the dark type of scenario traditionally. Not that this other Amazon thing is like you submit a script and boom, you're gonna be the next creator of an Amazon original film. But it does create another avenue, another outlet to get to that point. It's not just that one, go through an agent, get signed with an agent, and hopefully wind up in Hollywood. And this is dope for the little guy, like us, or anybody who's into anything creative. Like, Amazon is doing great things within the space. That's where I self-publish, and a lot of indie authors, their main source of revenue comes from Amazon in terms of self-publishing, having the ability to self-publish their own ebooks and print books, paperbacks and everything like that, is very largely through Amazon. So companies like Amazon, Netflix, it's dope and inspiring to see them continuing to invest in these like direct to consumer driven content creating, inspiring stuff. I'll put a link also in the episode notes for anybody who's interested in checking it out. You can submit an unlimited number of scripts. It helps you with like auto formatting. so that you can, just focus on creating the stories and stuff like that of whatever scripts you're submitting, whether it's like a drama series or mystery movie or children's cartoon script or whatever. Submit whatever you want, as much as you want, and good luck. It's definitely something that I look forward to working with. I haven't personally done it myself yet, but like a long-term eventual goal of mine is to create a script, a screenplay rather, that's based on a novel that I've written. And since I'm not the type, for better or for worse, to just move to Hollywood and live in my car and just write scripts all day and stuff like that, the novel that I'm working on now would probably be the first one that I try creating a screenplay from. Like I've played with screenplays before. I think I mentioned to you guys in terms of like I've read a bunch of screenplays of like my favorite movies, like Back to the Future, and just screenplays that people say that you should study or that they do study in like NYU Film School and stuff like that. Like the movie Chinatown, which is said to be like a perfect script, or Back to the Future 1 was said to be one as well, in terms of like all loose ends being tied and just the having all the components that a script is supposed to within the genre of film that they are. And I wrote an episode of South Park that nobody has ever seen except me, and I think I showed it to my wife or told her about it. But just like a goof kind of, like a practice type of thing. And it'll definitely be cool to finish this book first off, because I don't want to start off like on another project, and because that's a form of procrastination in and of itself, like starting one project and another one, and I caught myself doing that too much, and like starting a short story and then getting the idea for another one, then starting another one, and then never finishing the first one and never coming back to it, and then not finishing shit. So I'm like really forcing myself to stick with this story that I've told you guys about already ad nauseum, that was an idea for the short story. I did a podcast about it to tell you guys about the first draft of it. That stretched out and became a very long short story, then to the point that it became a novella / novel, and that's what it's going to stay at. But I'm going to stick with it until I finish it. Then thereafter, think about turning it into like a screenplay and see where that goes. But it's just all fun, it's all cool. It's like awesome to have like these outlets and not just like create it for yourself on your computer, but actually going somewhere, and then, who knows if it'll ever go anywhere beyond that or be seen by anyone. But just the fact that I could share it like on a podcast with you guys, or to the half dozen people that have like purchased my book or anything like that, it's pretty dope just to be able to do that. It's fun as shit. And it's we owe credence to like companies like that, like Amazon and Netflix, that are opening up these doors for us to kind of have like an outlet and avenue to be able to do that. They like to set up the infrastructure for us to be able to put in the work and do what we got to do. But yeah, that's pretty much it with that. So these two movies, Manchester by the Sea and Fences. Manchester by the Sea was surprisingly, like I heard that it was like a really good movie, up for like movie of the year type of movie. That's what like made me watch it or whatever. But I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know the plot of it. I didn't know what the story was about. I didn't know anything. So I went into it blind, and I was pleasantly surprised. It was a very dark movie in a lot of ways, like probably like mainly like a very dark movie, but it had its moments of levity that like balanced it out very well. For those of you that haven't seen the movie, fast forward a bit because I might spoil a few things. But it's about Casey Affleck, who's married to Jen from Dawson's Creek, and they have 3 kids together, and they're young. They seem like a touch over, what's the word I'm looking for? Like they're in over their heads a little bit by like a touch, like they had a little too many kids, like too quick. And they're trying to figure things out, and he works hard, and to make ends meet, and he's still not like a grown up yet, really, and still transitioning between, the single go out party type life and with your friends and chill and drink and smoke and do coke or whatever it is that you're into, and the being a husband and father life, which is two different worlds, really. And before fully transitioning to that role, like, they have 3 kids in the mix. So one day, he, after a party with his friends and where all that shit is going on and chilling in the basement, the wife kicks them all out, and he winds up falling asleep on the couch, and he put like some fire, like the house was cold, he put some like firewood in the fireplace, and then he went to the corner store or something like that down the block to get some, like, a beer or some more booze or something like that, because he was still wired and couldn't fall asleep like that. Then when he comes back, the whole house is on fire, and the wife is outside, like, with an oxygen tank on her face, but the 3 children died. And long story short, they find out that while he was away at the store, one of the fire logs rolled out of the fireplace and into the living room, and that's what started the fire. So he killed his kids. And they showed the point where he realized it when he was being interrogated by the police officers, and you could just like see the point where he did such an awesome job acting, Casey Affleck, which is why I think he won Actor of the Year for this role. But you could see the point where his heart broke watching that, explaining to the police officers what happened. He realized that it was him. He said it was my fault. Once he realized that, once he was going through like what he did that night and what happened, and it was like an emotional scene to watch. And then he was also upset at, the cops pretty much said, okay, that's it, you can go home now, whatever. And then Casey Affleck was like taken aback a bit. He was like, what do you mean I can go home? Like, he thought, like he should be in jail, like it was his fault. And the officers explained that it was, if it happened the way he says it happened, it was a mistake. It was, an unfortunate, obviously, mistake, a fucked up mistake. You did fuck up. You literally killed your children, but you didn't like murder them. It was like an honest mistake, for whatever that's worth. And he's just wrestling with that throughout the rest of the film. And needless to say, his marriage didn't survive that. And it's like throughout the rest of the film, it's almost as if he felt undeserving of like anything. Like he completely isolated himself from his family, like his brother, the rest of his family, all his family. And he moved to a neighboring town. And it was like a small town in Massachusetts that half the town like knew him and understood that it was a mistake. The other half seemed to be like, oh, he's a piece of shit, fucking drunk, that killed his kids. And it was interesting to see that like juxtaposition between, different perspectives on the same situation. And he just couldn't live there anymore. He couldn't like deal with that, and he ran away from like those issues and like isolated himself. He was living a very, very secluded, not let anybody anywhere near him emotionally type of life. He became like a janitor / super of like 2 buildings, living by himself. And he was just like living to die, pretty much. Then, long story a little bit shorter, he winds up having to go back to the town because his brother, who always had his back, passed away. He had a heart condition that they knew he was going to pass away younger than he was supposed to. Like, he had like 15 years to live or something like that before all this happened. Long story short, his brother put him, Casey Affleck, as his like next of kin, and wanted him to look after his son. And Casey Affleck has to come back and confront all his demons from the past, come back to the same town that he had left, and be pretty much the guardian or the parent to this kid that's his nephew, but that he doesn't really have a relationship with. And at the same time, he's like hard on himself in the sense of, like, I'm a piece of shit father, I can't be the father to this kid, and I'm doing just enough to keep it together, not fucking shoot my brains out. So I can't do this right now. I can't do this, period. And he's like, can't not do it because it's what his brother wanted, and he had to be responsible enough to like confront the situation, just to get him back into the town is like moving mountains. And he did it very hesitantly, but he did it, and very disconnectedly he did it, and went through the motions and buried his brother and look after his nephew, and was doing it temporarily, and he was going to pull his nephew out of that town. The nephew was, I think, probably like 17 or 16 or 18 years old, or like 17. And he was telling his nephew, after all this, like, we're going to move, we'll sell the house or whatever, we're going to move back to where I live. And the nephew's like, obviously doesn't want that. He has his whole life there, and he's about to be 18, which he could be independent. And the levity in the story, ironically, was between the conversations between them two, was like really funny. Like me and my wife watching the movie, like, it's such a dark movie, but the conversations between them two, as short and concise and to the point as they were, because that's the type of demeanor that Casey Affleck had throughout the entire movie. Like, he didn't want to speak more than necessary. Like, there were moments where we like laughed out loud, like just listening to the conversation between them two. And that's powerful writing right there, to be able to emotionally take an audience from just being watching a dark, fucked up movie, but then sprinkle in moments of laughter like throughout it. It's just it's a really dope movie, man. I saw it once, and now, just like from speaking about it, I want to watch it again. So definitely recommend it. Manchester by the Sea. Check it out, folks. Next is Fences. I was expecting something completely different from Fences, and this is like my beef with what do they call, like, trailers and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, sometimes trailers do a good job of like selling a movie, and like you're expecting something, and I don't know if they do this purposely or not, or maybe it's just like bad choices or just like different tastes or whatever, but sometimes you watch a trailer and it's like they show you in the trailer like every single good part of the movie, and then the rest of the movie sucks. Or sometimes they show you a trailer, like in this case with Fences, they show you a trailer and you think the movie's about one thing, which I thought it was like a father and son type of old school father that's kind of like stuck in his ways, ignorant to like new things in the world, and the son is like ignorant to old ways of the world, and they're trying to like reconcile things between the two. And I thought it was like that type of thing, and the son was going to be a football star, and the dad was a failed sports star, like I thought that's what the movie was going to be, and it wasn't. And I based that like on the trailers and stuff like that. So I was really looking forward to it, because I'm into like father-son type stuff, movies and stories. But it wasn't that. The movie wasn't completely that. It was partly that. Very, very minimally that. but it definitely didn't let me down. I liked the movie, and people say it was like Denzel Washington's like best role ever in terms of acting, and I think it was. I mean, all of his roles are like dope. You know, it's fucking Denzel Washington, but this is definitely up there. Definitely up there as one of the best, if not the best. I love in the movie all the dialogue. Like, there were long stretches of there were long monologues, and like Denzel Washington telling stories of like when he grew up and stuff like that. There were long dialogue exchanges between him and Viola Davis, and him and his sons, and then him and his best friend, him and his brother, which is Bubba from Forrest Gump. And it was pretty much, to me, like the story of Denzel Washington as being this person that had a very rough upbringing, and the fact that he came out of it, he had an abusive father, left the house when he was 14 years old, and by himself, was homeless for a while. He committed a murder when he went to like stick somebody up, and that person like pulled out a gun. He got scared and stabbed him, and he wound up killing the person and going to jail for 15 years, and then came out of that. And for him to be anything other than just like a criminal is like, just within the context of, if that's what being abused as a kid, being on your own at 14 years old, murdering someone and being in prison for 15 years, and then coming out of that and being anything other than just a criminal from there on out, is an accomplishment, I think. But he definitely wasn't a good person, or a good, the best father, or the best husband, or whatever, by any stretch of the imagination. But just when you factor in like those things, it's like, if you told me all of those, if you asked me to predict at that point, like when he came out of prison, like what's going to happen with this guy, it definitely wouldn't be that he became a long time, garbage man, and put food on the table for his family. Pretty much. Like, I definitely wouldn't expect that. But he obviously had his faults, tons of faults, and he felt that that's all he had to do, was, in terms of his family, was to have the responsibility covered, in terms of putting food on the table and shelter over everybody's heads, and clothes on their backs, and that's it. No necessity for like an emotional connection. No, it's kind of like that old school mentality. If you guys have like older relatives or anything like that, it's a different age. It's more like hard, tough love. It's like, yeah, they love you, but they're not gonna hug you and tell you they love you every day, like Full House type shit. So you understand where his character's coming from, even if you don't agree with it. And then, he drank a lot. I think the drinking allowed him to bond a little bit more, ironically, with his wife, and at least his older son, that he spoke to more when he was drunk, and like spoke to more in terms of like opening up more and telling him stories of like when he was a kid, stuff like that they had never known about or heard before, and just like joking around with his wife and being happy or whatever around her, instead of like grumpy and miserable that all he amounted to was to be like a garbage man. And he felt like a failure, and the house that he has is because of his brother that was in the army, and got like a metal plate put in his head from a shot to the head, and the army gave them like 3 G's worth of compensation, and they used that to buy a house. And the brother, Denzel Washington, was looking after his brother, but his brother's like a mentally ill person at this point, and Denzel Washington is just kind of like self-loathing like throughout the movie, and projecting his insecurities onto his kids and his family, really, and wanting like his youngest son to pick up a trade and go the secure route of find a job. Don't fill your head up with these ideas of like playing football or sports or anything like that. The white man is going to keep you down, etc., etc. which comes from an era where that was probably more true in his time than it was in his son's. And my failures are going to be your failures. And, it's coming from a good place of he wants better for his kid, but at the same time, it's coming from that naive, ignorant place of things are different now. And I could do differently than you did. But it was a good movie. It had like this, throughout it had like this percolating type of inquietud. I don't know how to say that in English. It's like, there's a lot of complacency like throughout the movie. Denzel Washington is kind of like, I wake up, I go to work, I get through the week, I drink, I go to the bar, he cheats on his wife, which later comes to light, and he winds up having a kid with another woman. And he, this is my life, this is what I got to go through the motions. His older son is kind of, how they say sometimes you wind up being just like your father, and sometimes you wind up being exactly the opposite of your father or your mother or whomever, has like an influence on you. He seems to have gone the route of being the opposite of his father, and he was like, he wants to be a musician and he's going to follow this unconventional path no matter what. And the wife, played by Viola Davis, which is another amazing actress, she was complacent in the sense of, I'm playing the housewife role, which I guess was more like the norm for like that time period. But it's like that all her wants and desires take a backseat to the husband's, and it's like with the brother that was sick, it's like they care for him, but they want him to be, or Denzel wanted him, instead of having him like in a hospital and stuff like that, he felt bad about putting him in one. I guess he felt like his brother wouldn't want that, or like he wanted to be free. And like, I guess even though like people would see him in the street and talking to himself and just seeing, making up stories of stuff that he was selling and working with St. Peter at the pearly gates and like stuff like that, and people just seemed like a crazy person. And Denzel, like, I guess didn't want to come to terms with that, or didn't want to see him as such, and just wrote it off as, let him be what he wants to be. I'm not gonna like have him committed to a hospital. The youngest son always had like that chip on the shoulder of wanting to be different from his dad, but he was a lot like him, and wanted to like prove him wrong, and but wanted him to like be proud of him at the same time. And he didn't know how to please him, or he was too busy pleasing him and didn't know how to like please him and also pursue his goals like the way he wanted to, with playing football and getting recruited to a college and stuff like that. And then he wound up like, I guess, running away, if you want to call it that, and joining the Marines just to get away from the situation that he was in, with his dad, being drunk and, effectively kicking him out of the house and stuff like that for like disobeying him. And it was just interesting just to see how every character in that movie chose to live their lives in the ways that they did, and how they wound up at the end. And it ended really nicely. I like the way that it ended. And that is Fences. Check it out, folks. All right, the last two things I have to speak about. First off is a Broadway play, Cats, which I went to go see with my wife, and I won it in a Broadway lottery, which I've mentioned to you guys in the past. There is a video podcast extra episode, number 57, if you guys want to check it out, in the back catalog, where I show you guys how to sign up for these lotteries, where you can get very steeply discounted Broadway tickets. And I got these for like $35 each, and we got dope seats to see a Broadway play. And they're normally like $150 to $180 tickets each, and I got them for $35 on a Sunday where we had nothing else to do, so we went. And to be quite honest, a lot of these plays that I've seen, I like watching plays and shit, right? But a lot of these that I've seen I'm glad that I won the lottery, because I didn't like a bunch of them. And if I would have paid like full regular price, that would have been tight. And Cats was one of them. It was, I don't know, it didn't really have a story to it. Well, first off, let me tell you what I liked. I liked the set. The set is like one of the most like elaborate, like the stage. It was like one of the most elaborate, cool things I've seen. It was meant to look like an alleyway in New York, but just like with tires and clothes and like broken glass and abandoned cars and grocery carts that are missing a wheel and bras and just like a bunch of different shit that you see through like New York streets and like that you would see like in an alleyway. And all these cats are throughout the play are like stray cats in New York. And their costumes were another thing that were dope. They were pretty like elaborate and cool. But that's pretty much where it ended. I didn't like any of the songs or the music or the dancing. I'm not big on. There was like one like tap dancing like sequence which like looked kind of cool. And I did like the fact actually that they came up like the set kind of like fed into where the seats were, like stretched out, and some of them would like run up to like where you were seated, like into the crowd a little bit, and that was kind of cool because it kind of like broke the fourth wall type of thing. But that's pretty much it. The rest of it is like there wasn't a story to it. It was pretty much the point of the play, I believe, was to show that just how different people are living their lives and have different personalities and stuff like that. Cats are the same way, and there's the cat that's a little pimp that likes to bang a whole bunch of different cats. There's a cat that's the friendly one that all the other cats know and are cool with. There's another cat that's like the ragtag fucked up looking cat that everybody picks on and nobody likes. There's the all different types. And they were just like showing that like I'm the cat that likes this, and then I'm the cat that likes that, and then that's it. That was like the whole fucking play. Literally in intermission, my wife went to the bathroom. She overheard like somebody saying, "It's okay, but I don't know what the hell it's about." You know what I mean? So at least I know I wasn't alone. And then when we were leaving, I actually overheard this couple speaking about it, and the woman tells the guy something to the effect of, "Oh yeah, I'm glad I read the book, because if not, I wouldn't have understood anything that was going on." So I guess there's a book that explains it, what the play is supposed to be about and shit like that. And maybe a bunch of shit just went over my head, but going into it blind, like just watching the play or whatever, that's what I got from it. So whatever, it is what it is. If you have the opportunity to check out that previous episode that I did, again, video podcast extra number 57, it shows you how to apply to these, or I show you how to apply to these like Broadway tickets, these lotteries, and I recommend it in that way. But paying full price and shit like that, I wouldn't for this one. And that's my take on Cats. And lastly, I'm reading right now a book called The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. It was recommended on a few different podcasts that I've listened to, and it's okay. Probably like a quarter of the way through, so I don't want to give like a full, I guess, like feedback on it. But so far, I've gotten more. It's like within the same vein as like a book like Tools or The War of Art, both of which I mentioned in the past, and I feel I've gotten more. It's like the same types of concepts and thoughts that I've gotten from those books, and I think I got them more from those books than I have so far with this one, with The Magic of Thinking Big. But like I said, it's still too soon to give a full recap on it. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up, since I usually tell you like what I'm reading and shit like that, and would definitely like some book recommendations from you folks, so feel free to share. Something that I guess I do like from it so far is that the applications of it are more like businessy, like work related, in terms of like the examples that it uses. Like for example, The War of Art is more of has like a creative type of spin to it, more of a like for writers and creatives, right? But the same like underlying concepts of following your gut and going for following your dreams but putting in the work to get there, like in a practical way. They're not just going to come to you. Don't just sit back and wait type of thing. So it's like similar type of concepts in this book, but this book, instead of being geared towards more of a creative twist or bend, it's more of a business work environment oriented. So maybe that's why I'm not too thrilled about it. But like I said, it's still too early to tell you guys definitively. And if you haven't read those other books and you just read this one, then you would probably get just as much from it or a lot more from it than I feel that I'm getting so far, just because I feel that I've gotten the same things from those other books and was able to take them in more easily. And that's pretty much it. That is The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. I'll let you guys know more about it when I finish it. And that's pretty much it, folks. That's the episode number 69 of the Spun Today podcast. I'm your host, Tony Ortiz, and I really appreciate you guys listening. Shout out, by the way, I've been wanting to shout out Virginia, by the way, the state of Virginia, which is the leading state in terms of downloads for the Spun Today podcast. I see you, Virginia. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And that's pretty much it for the episode. I'm going to tell you guys a few ways you can help support the episode. So if you want to stick around and listen to that, feel free. And if not, check out the next episode that comes out in a couple weeks. The first way you can help support the Spun Today podcast is by signing up to my newsletter. I have a newsletter called the Midday Monday Boost Letter. You can sign up to it totally for free. And if you do so, I think you'd like it. You'd appreciate it. It's pretty much a list of, not pretty much, it is a list of 5 different things every Monday at noon that I email out to all these subscribers. And those 5 things include a featured photographer of the week, somebody that took a dope picture that I liked, and that's it. A podcast of the week, a featured podcast. It's a podcast that resonated with me for whatever reason, and I wanted to share with you guys. I want you guys to check it out so you can get something from it as well. A video of the week, a inspirational quote of the week, or not necessarily inspirational, just like a dope quote that resonated with me that I wanted to share with you guys, and a word of the week. So you get this short email with these 5 things in it, and it's just once a week, every Monday at noon, to help boost your Mondays. So check it out if you're interested at spuntoday.com/subscribe. And there on that page, all you have to do is drop in your email address. Don't forget that when you do that, you get an email opt-in email asking you to confirm that you want to subscribe to the newsletter. Just click yes, and then you will get the very next Midday Monday Boost Letter. Let me know what you guys think. Also, for any creatives out there, I have a questionnaire. It's a 5-question questionnaire with 5 questions about your craft, what it is that you're into, whether it's podcasting, maybe it's writing as well, maybe it's both. It's 5 questions that are open-ended that you guys can fill out at spuntoday.com/questionnaire. And you can choose to remain anonymous if you want to, or not. You know, maybe you want to be known as the person that answered the 5 questions. When I read your responses to the listeners of the Spun Today podcast on a future episode, that's what I do to pretty much share, tips and tricks, and maybe some of your responses could help inspire somebody else to pursue something that they've been wanting to pursue that they're kind of sort of on the fence with, or maybe they don't know how to start, and maybe something that you say that you answer for one of those questions helps them do that. And if that's the case, why not spark inspiration where and when we can. That's the whole goal of the questionnaire. So check it out. It's at spuntoday.com/questionnaire. It's just 5 short questions. And feel free to answer them however you want. Next, if you like photos, photography, you can pretty much like landscape style photography. That's what I take most of. I like taking pictures of stuff, and I put them up. The ones that I think are dope, I put up at spuntoday.com/photography. You can digitally download any of them for free, and check them out whenever you want. There's a way that you can order prints of all that photography as well. That's not free, but if you want like a poster or like a canvas or a picture frame with one of those photos, like there's a cool one that I like with like an old school fire engine, and there's one of the pyramid at Chichen Itza, and just like cool pictures like that you might find interesting, that you might want prints of. You can order prints at crated.com, crated.com/Spun Today, and you'll find there all the photography that's on my website. You will find at crated.com/Spun Today, where you can order prints of any of my photography. One of the best ways you can help support the Spun Today podcast is by using my affiliate links to do your shopping on Amazon or on iTunes. And you can do so by going to spuntoday.com/affiliate links. Or if you just go to spuntoday.com, at the top you're going to see all these pages that I'm referencing, whether it's the affiliate links page or the subscribe page for the newsletter or the photography page, etc. All you have to do is click on any of those and it'll take you to these pages that I'm referencing. So spuntoday.com/affiliate links. There you will see an Amazon banner, and you can click on the Amazon banner and it's just going to take you to Amazon's website. And you do your shopping like you normally do, and it does not cost you anything extra, but Amazon gives me a couple pennies on the dollar from their cut of whatever it is that you purchase just for driving traffic to their website. So if you want to support the podcast financially without it costing you anything, that's a great way to do it, and it's greatly appreciated when you do. I want you guys to check out my book, Make Way for You. It is available wherever ebooks are sold, whether it's Kindle, iBooks, wherever you read your ebooks. Or if you want to order a paperback copy, feel free to go to either my website at spuntoday.com/books and click on the book cover. And it'll take you to Amazon's page where my book is located, and you can order a paperback copy there. And let me know what you guys think. I'm really interested in you guys rating and reviewing it. I would really appreciate it if you did. And so much so that I'm offering the book for free. If you don't want to purchase it, go to that page that I just referenced, spuntoday.com/books. And you can, at the bottom of that page, drop in your email address. And I'll send you over a free copy of the book. It'll be a PDF copy, so it won't be as cool or as interactive as the like iBooks version or the Kindle version, where you can like click on different links that I reference and throughout the book and stuff like that. But you get the full copy of the book in a PDF format, and you can read it and hopefully gain some inspiration and motivation from it. That's my intention with the book, and I hope it adds some value to you in your life. So check it out. It's called Make Way for You, Tips for Getting Out of Your Own Way. So if you need a little kick in the ass, a little spark of inspiration, check it out. Thank you very much for listening to the podcast, wherever you do listen to podcasts, whether it's on Google Play or iTunes or Stitcher or Pocket Casts or wherever it is that you listen. I really appreciate you guys listening, and requesting that you rate and review the podcast, or just rate the podcast, whichever one you prefer. That helps the podcast gain exposure, and it puts more people onto it, and more people get to listen to it because they know about it, because they see it like ranking like on the quote-unquote podcast charts or whatever. They don't have to scroll to page 10,000 to see the Spun Today podcast. The more you rate it, it might be around page 5,000 or something like that. You never know. Dream big, folks. Dream big. What else? Follow me on social media at Spun Today on Twitter or at Spun Today on Instagram. And check out the Facebook fan page at facebook.com/Spun Today. And the last way that you can help support the podcast financially, or two final ways, is by checking out my viral style store, which you can buy like Spun Today gear, whether it's mugs that have the Spun Today logo as well as the catchphrase that I end every episode with, or t-shirts that I've created that are on there that are like geared towards writing and stuff like that. And the last way you can help support the podcast is by supporting it on a per episode basis. You can donate $1 per episode or $2 per episode or whatever it is that you want to donate per episode. And just to give you some context, I release 2 episodes per month. But you can set up this reoccurring donation by going to patreon.com/Spun Today. patreon.com/Spun Today. And what happens when you become a patron is that there are 4 different levels of rewards. Go to patreon.com/Spun Today and you will see what those reward levels are and what they get you. Some of them get you a shout out on the podcast, as well as a Spun Today limited edition bookmark. Some of them get you free copies of my book and future books as they come out. And there's different levels, so check it out depending on how much you decide to donate, which again is greatly appreciated, and all proceeds will go to continuing to fund the bandwidth and costs associated with releasing this podcast, to make sure that I'm able to keep it free in perpetuity and free for you guys, because it does cost me some, and eventually, hopefully, to be able to use that money for a professional editor for future books that I put out. So if you want to be involved directly in that way, feel free again to check out patreon.com/Spun Today, and it will be greatly appreciated. And that's it, folks. Thank you very much for checking out episode number 69 of the Spun Today podcast. I'm your host, Tony Ortiz. And as always, substitute the mysticism with hard work and start taking steps in the general direction of your dreams. Thanks for listening.